Next up, we're going to starve our demons, all right? So this gets a little bit more like we're fighting back. So the idea here is that there are three elements. There's entertainment, relationships, and your thoughts. And your thoughts are kind of shaped by your entertainment and your relationships. But let's start out with entertainment. For me personally, I live vicariously through the things that I watch and listen to. So the character in the series or the show, the movie, whatever it may be, or the book that I empathize with the most, I tend to live vicariously through. And it's a curse, because what ends up happening is then I put on the stress that they experience. We've all experienced this, and I'm going to give you an example. Have you ever watched a show in which you're watching it and your heart starts beating a little faster? So Breaking Bad is an example for me that I just can't watch it. I get depressed. I live vicariously through that character. I find myself in that depth of, I don't know what else to do, hopelessness, that kind of thing, and it just makes me depressed. So I choose not to watch it. So those things, another example, I listen to a lot of metal music. I'm a metalhead through and through, and I listen to emo kind of stuff. There's an album from a band called Emery. I'm Only a Man, I think is the song, or something like that. I can't listen to it. It makes me depressed. It makes me live vicariously through the story that they're portraying. I can't do it. So when you're listening to entertainment or watching entertainment, you have to be conscious of where it's putting you emotionally. If it's triggering this heartbeat, like your heart is beating faster, you're actually having hormones run through your body that are stress hormones. You're asking to be stimulated in such a way that will cause depression. You have to recognize that. You're living through them. Even if it's momentarily, even if it's something that you think you cognitively can walk away from, your body is still experiencing those hormones. You have to recognize that, and you have to recede from it. You have to pull away from doing those things. I don't listen to certain music that depresses me. I don't watch certain shows that depress me because I can't. I know where it will put me, and it's not worth it. So you got to kind of take control over it, starve those demons with not watching certain entertainment. Second up is relationships. When you're dealing with people that are complaining and whining and just constantly negative, or you're surrounded by depressed people because you feel like, well, they get me, they understand me the most. Chances are, if you're surrounded by depressed people, you're not going to understand what it is to be happy. You're not going to figure out how do I actually live on the other side of this. There's Bible passages all about this, like the concept of who you surround yourself with, you become. There's one passage that says bad company corrupts good character. Another passage says that those who hang out with the wise become wise. Those who hang out with fools become fools or suffer harm. That idea doesn't just stand for wisdom or bad company. It stands for you become who you hang out with the most. It ends up being like a sociological kind of thing where, like, you, however you see them seeing you, you become. Right? So if I see the most important people in my life seeing me as depressed, chances are I'm going to remain depressed. If I see the person that I care about most looking at me and thinking of me as a person that has value, and that a person that is recognized and can accomplish great things, I'm probably going to live up to that. It's almost like a self-fulfilled prophecy. That goes back to the hope and gratitude as well. It's self-fulfilled prophecies, right? Self-fulfilled hope. When you're hoping in tomorrow I'm going to smell the fresh air that I smelled today, that I was grateful for today, that becomes a self-fulfilled kind of prophecy. All right, so watch your relationships. Watch who you're hanging out with. If you're spending time, if you recognize that most of the time that you spend is with individuals that are negative, that are perpetuating their own depression or their own anxiety or their own issues, whatever they may be, you probably don't want to hang out with them. And that does stink, especially, it probably started out like we have a lot in common because we're both depressed or because we have these things in common, and now all of a sudden you have to cut people off. That can be tough. But when we get to exposing those demons to the light, we're going to show some solutions to that. All right, third part of starving your demons, we hit entertainment, we hit relationships, now your thoughts. Now this is probably the most difficult part. As far as the Christian perspective, we talk about taking every thought captive to the Lord. So every thought is kind of heavenly focused, not focused on the temporal suffering that we experience here, but the focus on the eternal delight that we will be experiencing in the future. However, this is not necessarily something that's a walk in the park. All of these things are disciplines. It's something that you have to generate. So when you're finding yourself starting to think, a classic example for me is when you wake up and you feel like, I don't feel like getting out of bed. I don't want to wake up. I don't want to be in this day. I just want to cover my head with the covers and just go back to sleep. You have to fight those thoughts early on. If you let them, they're like a snowball, and the hill gets steeper at the bottom, right? If you start up here and the snowball is rolling, and it trickles down to the midsection, now it's picked up momentum. It's going to be harder to stop. You're now stuck, all right? You're stuck in this perpetual cycle where it just hits bottom, and now once you're there, it's hard to climb back up the hill, all right? So you have to hit this really early on. As soon as you wake up, you have to start thinking positively. Use the gratitude, use the hope, use whatever you have to get your body into gear. All right, I'm going to be hitting some topics later on about nutrition and things that you can do with food and drinking water first thing when you wake up. That's very refreshing and it gets your body into gear. So that will be in another video series. So that's it for outsmarting your demons and starving your demons. Now we're going to be going into our last topic, which is exposing those demons to the light.